Hi, so I'm back with another movie review. Now, this time I'm doing the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Yeah. Might I say, this is one of the best serial killers to come out after Halloween. But I'm gonna start off with the original Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, this one has to be another of the most influential horror films of all time. Whereas this one actually gave the serial killer voice, comedic standpoint, and basically inspired, I would say, Chucky. Because if it wasn't for this movie, Chucky wouldn't be like as funny as it was. Because when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, it created a character that was comedic, but perverted and like just menacing in his own way. Just because it wasn't also the character himself that was scary, but it was the powers that he had, in which it was crazy. That's what made it scary. You know, like most films, it's like, oh, I'm beast and strong, or I got this OD big knife or a big chainsaw, whatever the case may be. This dude had simple claws on his hands and the element of surprise and scare. It returned back to the whole thriller thing, and returned back to the whole um, running because you're scared. It was basically badass, especially because of the effects of that time. It was like almost revolutionary. Like it wasn't something that you just watch and you're like, oh yeah, I know how they did this, and this. Well, back then, there was no running from it. So obviously, from a character that was that great, they decided to do the sequel, Nightmare Freddy 2. Now the thing is that with this one, what kind of sucks about it was that they went from having this whole um, Freddy character running after a girl to going after this guy to reincarnate himself, which kind of created this whole like if you dig deep enough, they came up with this like whole homoerotic thing where like they had like one of the guys getting whipped in the bathroom. It was like it felt like the main character was running because he was a homophobe, but he was like a homosexual himself. So that one wasn't the personal favorite. I mean, number one was an excellent 10, but this one, I don't know. I don't know why they decided to do a sequel with a guy in it. Maybe they wanted to break trend, but it's still the way it went about. It just wasn't right. So I'll give that one like about a 7. Boom, Dream Warriors. Now this one was the shit. Now what ends up happening is that the kids from part one, well, not from part one, but basically the kids on Elm Street start to go crazy because, you know, Freddy's killing off all their friends. Boom, they end up in a mental institution. So, yeah, that was Dream Warriors. So what ends up happening is that now that they're in a mental institution, they're taking pills so they won't dream. And what ends up happening is that they start ending up all getting knocked off. Now that one's one of my personal favorites because it's the one where Freddy ends up taking like all these people in their mental asylum, knocking them off one by one in their dreams. It was just excellent. Like it used all their nightmares against them, literally, like physical nightmares that they had, like, you know, or I'm a drug addict or whatever the case may be. Boom, he puts it towards them. It kills them that way. So that one I'll give an excellent 9. Then comes, boom, the Dream Master. Now, what ends up happening is that now that the characters from, you know, the ones that survived in part 3 come along, and they end up killing Freddy in 3. Obviously, Freddy's not dead. He comes back in 4 to kill off the remaining few. That's basically the whole entire story. Now 5. Now this one was Dream Child. This one was great. Because what ends up happening is that when he comes back, this time Freddy's not, you know, coming after a certain person. Well, he is. But it's not because of the stereotypical reasons of why, you know, oh, you killed me in this movie or whatever the case may be. He's coming back because he wants your baby. Now what he's doing is he's trying to get the baby so he can be reincarnated through the baby, and they have this really cool baby Freddy going around in there. And that's where you basically find out his whole history. They go back into how he came about, Um, which was the story was that there was a nun who gets trapped in this insane asylum for a weekend and is raped and molested and sodomized the entire time she's there. And basically, what ends up happening is that while she's in there, she's raped by like 1,000 maniacs, and basically he's born. So it's like kind of like, oh my god, you know, that's his legacy. And then he later grows up to be a pedophile. So then, obviously he dies, and then comes the final nightmare. Freddy's dead. Now I hate when they call movies final. Every time they call it final, there's another sequel, which pisses me off. Like Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. This is the only, well, the first one to cut out of that whole Nightmare on Elm Street thing. Now this one was directed for a 3D release, and it was basically to kill off Freddy. People were they were afraid of what was going on. They just needed to end the story. So this was the corniest one, I would say. I did not like this one a lot, but it goes more into his origin. So what ends up happening is that the town of I don't know what's the town, but basically Elm Street and all the kids that live in that little community are all basically dead. Freddy has killed all the kids of that entire town. They're all gone. And after he kills them all off, basically what ends up happening is that all the parents are afraid to have kids. They can't have teenagers. He killed them. But what ends up happening is that this kid is having nightmares. They decide to return to the town. Boom, Freddy starts killing people, and it did have its fun moments. Like there's a part where he's fighting in a video game. It's really funny. But like I said, it was the corniest one. You find out that the reason why he was going out there was because he had a daughter, and he's trying to kill the daughter, and you know, it delves back into his history. You find out how he had the daughter, that he killed his wife, and that basically that's how he started molesting children. It shows him as a kid, and he used to torture animals, and he used to get picked on, and you know, he didn't have parents, so he was moving from foster home to foster home, in which he used to get beat as a child, and it was just basically shows Freddy as this like tormented, tortured kid, and you don't feel pity for him, but you see why he's psychotic and why he's crazy, which was really great. Excuse the NYC noise. Then comes after Freddy dies. You know, it's been some years later. People want Freddy to come back, so they decide to bring back Wes Craven in all his glory and do New Nightmare. Now, this one, as a filmmaker standpoint, I loved it because it did a new concept. It re-envisioned the entire franchise, and it made Freddy scary again. Because what it did was the main plot line was that now that the Freddy movies are over, now people can move on, but people want more, so they decided to do another script for another one. And during the process of that script, Freddy comes out of the film world and into the real world, which basically neglected the entire franchise from the begin with. So it's like basically saying, oh yeah, the whole thing was a dream, which pisses you off because if you love the franchise, you're like, that one pissed me off because it just said F you to everything I just witnessed the last 7 films. And then with this one, as a filmmaker standpoint, it did like what Scream did. Boom, it was scary again. So review. So I'm just basically gonna do the rates and then I'm gonna call it a day. So the first one I give it a 10. The second one I give it a, I don't know, it was a waste of my time. I'll give it a 6. I'll give the third one, I'll give that one a 8. 4, I'll give it a 5. 5, I'll give an 8. Freddy's Dead, I'll give I don't know what I'll give that one. I'll give it a 4, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare I'll give it a 9. So those are my reviews, and I'll catch you on the flip side.